Well, good morning. I'd like to do something a little bit different today. This video, I am Mike Gizzard of Minorcan Magic here in St. Augustine, Florida. You can find us on YouTube or on our website at minorcanmagic.com. And anyway, so always in the past doing videos about nets. We always talk about mullet nets, different types of mullet nets, the origin of nets and everything, and we never really, I've never really got into talking about mullet the fish itself. And I ain't talking about a haircut. It's not a hairdo. I'm talking about mullet. There's somewhere between close to 80 different varieties of mullet in the oceans around the world. Our ancestors, or my ancestors, came from Minorca. They left the port of Mahan in Minorca and in the Mediterranean to come to the east coast of Florida back in 1768. However, there's 5 different varieties of mullet right there in Minorca. Here in St. Augustine, the east coast of Florida, there's 2. There's basically 2 species of mullet, varieties of mullet that we have here. The black mullet, which is the most common. Then there's a silver mullet. Silver mullet doesn't get near as big. They're better eating than me. They're better eating fish. They don't get near as big. And they only show up, we used to call them June mullet because they showed up in June for not a long period of time. You'd catch them on the beach. I think they were better eating because they stayed out in the ocean. They didn't get in the rivers and the mud and stuff like the black mullet. But anyway, we'll get to the point. A mullet is very unique, and not just in respect that they can totally swim from the Atlantic Ocean all the way up to St. Johns River and into Silver River and eventually into Silver Springs, which is totally fresh spring water coming out of the ground. They can totally adjust to that. Other fish can too as well, saltwater species. But the thing that sets mullet uniquely different than any other species now, of all the species of fish that they are, talking about saltwater fish, a mullet has a gizzard. A mullet is classified as a vegetarian. I didn't know if you knew that. They have a gizzard that they eat grasses and filter stuff out of the mud and sand. But that's why I guess that they have a gizzard. And people talk about, I've tried to, I don't care for them to eat a gizzard, but there's a lot of old Minorcans have raved over a mullet gizzard, but I never cared for them. But anyway, so with that said, the mullet is perhaps, it's a one of a kind, and they can be found here along our coast. Like I said, the black mullet is probably it is the most common, and not near as plentiful as they used to be. A little quick story about our early Minorcans that came to St. Augustine once they moved. They worked at an indigo plantation down in New Smyrna, but ended up St. Augustine, and after 9 years, 1777, they settled in St. Augustine for good. And there's a little story that they were very used to mullet because, like I say, there were 5 varieties of mullet in Minorca. They were used to catching mullet. So here, when they found a mullet here, they took to them. So, with that said, they would go to the beach, and you got to the beach back in those days, you went by boat. That's the only way you go. You had to go row across or sail across the Matanzas River there, downtown St. Augustine, over across the sand dunes to the beach. They would go over, and they would find the schools of mullet heading up the coast, and they would catch their mullet, and they would come back into St. Augustine, and they'd be hollering mullet on the beach, letting everybody know. And from the story goes, everything would stop. All mullet to the early Minorcans are both for food and commerce. What they couldn't eat, they would sell. But anyway, so everything would stop. They'd grab their nets and head to the beach to chase the schools of mullet that would be going by. The mullet run if you do a Google search, you will find that the mullet run is kind of a big thing up and down the East Coast. It starts in sometime in September and runs through into December, but probably the heart of it is in October. You'll find lots of information about it if you're so interested in it. But anyway, I just thought today might be a good time just to bring that up to you. That that something we don't really have a reason to even know about, or maybe even be interested in the fact that the mullet is the only saltwater fish that has a gizzard. There's a shad now in saltwater. There's a freshwater. There's a freshwater shad that has a gizzard, but of no consequence to us about us mullet fishermen. But anyway, also the mullet roe is a delicacy, and it even is today. I personally used to catch mullet to smoke. You couldn't put the mullet I've caught and smoked, you couldn't put in this house. But I had a smokehouse that I could smoke 100-pound mullet at a time, you know. But anyway, so it was they're oily fish. They're great to smoke. In order to clean a fish to smoke, you have to cut the head off. You don't scale it. You cut the head off. Then you take a knife and you cut it right down the middle, right down the backbone on one side, and open it up and clean out the stomach. Now, one last thing I want to bring up about a mullet is they have a gallbladder. Growing up, we just called it a gall. And if you break it, it's going to leak out a green fluid that will not only does it have a foul smell, but you can't eat the fish. If you break that gall and it leaks into that fish while you clean it, you have to throw it away. You can't eat it. You can't get it out. You can't wash it out. So, but anyway, if you do a little research on that, it's also hazardous. So you wouldn't want to eat it. But I guess other than that, I think if you want to know any more about Minorcan Magic, you can find us, again, like I said, on YouTube or our website, minorcanmagic.com. You can email us, find our email address, phone number if you want to contact us in any way. If you have any questions or comments, anything you'd like to know about, be happy to talk to you about it. And with that said, I think we're going to terminate this thing. Until the next time, you have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.